Hello viewers, Super GT here. So this is a video about the Nurburgring Nordschleife, the infamous circuit in Germany. We're going to take a couple of races around here in Gran Turismo Sport. And we're going to kick things off with an absolutely gigantic dive bomb, which only resulted in me losing many positions. Bit of a silly move, not my finest hour. But over the course of this video, I'm going to show you 4 races, and I'll also highlight how this circuit is actually really good fun for racing. It's one of the longest tracks in the game, in the world, the Nurburgring, the Nordschleife. I should only know that too well because I did 200 laps of it once in one go, and that was pretty, wasn't the greatest time of my life, must be said. But this race here, I find myself down a little bit further back than where I started, and we're going to nip up the inside of this Porsche. I'm driving the Supra, which is the meta car. It's the car to go to on this race. Leonidas Max here. Just going to leave the door open, slightly ajar at least, and we're going to move up the inside and move back up into 5th, which is where we started. But by this point, you can see just how close it is behind. By this point in time, the gap was 4.5 seconds to the car in front. So as a result of all of this losing positions at the start, opened up far too much of a gap. Then this mistake happened. Find myself meeting my good friend Barry R for a quick little get together. And that was a little bit too unfortunate because on the next corner, 2 other guys met Barry R, and I just couldn't quite get ahead of Spine Collector. Now, if I didn't make that spin, that mistake, that rendezvous with Barry, then I'd probably be 2 or 3 seconds up the road ahead of Spine Collector. We're going to go up the inside here anyway and move into 3rd. So I'm not really sure how I found myself in 3rd after that disastrous start, but it does show you that you can overtake around this track, even if it is quite a tricky place to do it. Now, onto the back straight. This is where things really do kick off, and there's so many really cool onboards. I'm going to have to link in the description one of the channels I love to watch, which shows you a lot of really cool onboards, a lot of them from this circuit, and it kind of shows the same thing in reality, that you get to that long straight and that's where a lot of the moves are done. Also on the GP circuit, which we're just coming up to here. So unfortunately, this is the end of the race. Spine Collector was able to go back past with the slipstream. It's very hard to defend against the slipstream on such a long straight. And I was just trying to catch back up here before the finish line. Couldn't quite do it. So we finish ultimately in 4th place. Now, I thought I'd use something a little bit different. We're going to go for the Bmw Z4, a car that at one point in time was quite ridiculed, if anything. And a car that's even more ridiculed is the BMW M3 GT that's in the lead. So the Spaniard there on pole position, going with a very brave choice. But we're going to try and bring it home with the BMW 1.2 if at all possible. Up against the Supra there, up in 2nd, driven by Wavy Squirrel 9. So let's just try to adapt to this car. The BMW Z4, good in the corners, I think. Doesn't quite have the straight line speed though, so we might be a bit of a sitting duck on that back straight. So what I want to know in the comments is this track a track that you enjoy or not? Because I think once it comes up on daily races, it's a lot of people avoid it, but a lot of people do it. So it's one of those, I think, you love it or you hate it. Wavy Squirrel making a mistake there. I think he went for a move, didn't quite manage to pull it off, and dropping a bit of time. I thought that's actually a good thing for me, perhaps tow me back onto the back of the BMW in the lead. And then that kind of happened by this point here. Going up the hill, the M3 just dropping a little bit wide onto the grass, and therefore sacrificing the lead of the race. And then we're going to come up to the long uphill section. The Supra pretty much unparalleled in this kind of territory, going uphill for a long time. You see, even the slipstream, we didn't catch up. BMW here, this was a bit of miscommunication, I think. He moves over to the right, I didn't know what he was doing, and then he just backs off completely. So it looks like he wanted me to go past. With that slight miscommunication, we actually lost a couple of tenths to the Supra in the lead, as you can see. Now 1.7 seconds ahead as we go into the carousel. And so a fair amount of time to try to catch up, but we ideally need to catch that up before the back straight so we can maximise the slipstream. It didn't matter though, because just maybe 20 seconds later, he also met our good friend Barry R. And I moved somehow into the lead of the race. And I wasn't quite sure how that happened. Well, it happened because everyone met Barry R, basically. Now, we are just going to try to keep this gap. We have a 1.1 second margin to the guys behind. And unfortunately, this mistake happened. Just did not quite get into the banking there through the mini carousel. And then the gap comes down to within slipstream, striking distance. So coming onto the back straight here, we're going to make another big mistake. And if anything, that mistake could have helped us because he's not going to get the big momentum here. Although the Supra behind is coming at us very quickly. So the M3 goes through. The Supra is going to come through even quicker. We're going to try to tuck into the slipstream of the Supra, which is the quicker car, with the momentum as well. And then, can we go for a return move back into the lead? Just shows how long this straight is. You can get overtaken, then you can re-overtake. It's a drag race between the Z4 and the Supra. Many people will say, well, there's just 3 BMWs here. I'm not seeing anything different. And then the M3 comes out of nowhere, gives us a bit of a boost, and then we move back into the lead. That wouldn't have happened without that little push. And after all of that, we end the first lap in the lead of the race. So it's a good little battle that's going on so far. Coming towards turn 1, I see them both coming at me very quickly. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to defend here. Just shows you this car doesn't really have straight line speed. It has the corners, it doesn't have the straights. So I really have to just pull away here as quickly as possible through all of the corners. And the Supra there moves up into second ahead of the M3. So through the GP section, this is always a good overtaking area. If there's any place on the track you want to do a move, it's on the back straight or in the GP section. We are beginning to edge away actually, and by this point in time here, 1.2 seconds away from now the Spaniard who's got back up into second place. So that's a decent margin, although it's such a long lap that you can definitely gain or lose 1.2 seconds compared to another driver. By the end of the lap here, am I going to suss out this corner? Not really. I've just really not got a good line through there. Quite a tricky little corner actually, to be honest, because you really do have to be on rails on the inside. Otherwise, you're going to be in a difficult position. Now, this is a difficult position to be in the lead with a car very close behind you. You see I'm lifting off a lot because I don't want to give him a big run on me. So I'm going to try and give him the toe here. This is a weird tactical battle that you have to do in order to stay ahead on this straight. It's actually quite difficult to do. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to let him go in front and then try to get back up in front by getting back into the slipstream. But I think this car just has such bad straight line speed. I was kind of doomed whatever I did, I think. I didn't play that perfectly, but to be honest, if I just let him go past, it wouldn't have been much better, really. So it was a weird little game of cat and mouse there. Very tactical, and racing around the Nordschleife often is very tactical, especially waiting for that back straight. But we're going to cross the line in second, so it's a bit of a shame to lose the lead so late in the race, but that's what happens when you don't get away from the slipstream before that back straight. You have to do that, otherwise you are a sitting duck. Turns out the BMW is overpowered. Well, first and second, who needs a Supra? And the person I was looking at was the guy in sixth, not Max Power. He came through from the back of the pack to finish in sixth place. And that is something I wanted to try as well. So I joined the Porsche 911 club, and Jeremy Clarkson formally invited me to blow up some caravans. So I'm going to go and do that once this video is finished. Here's my warm-up, which was obviously the best way to warm up. Obviously, why wouldn't you do that? Now, Beginning of this race, as I said, I wanted to start at the back. Now, my qualifying time was 4th best, but we're going to have to just let everyone go past, as we do there. Down into final position. Is that the way to say it? Down into last place, final position. Down into last place. Now we have 2 laps to try to gain as many positions as possible and perhaps demonstrate that it is possible to race around this circuit. You only have to watch videos of Sabine Schmitz to see her going past about 4 million cars in a lap to show you that it is possible to do. Up the inside of not max power here, side by side, and I'm not quite able to get fully ahead, so we have to sort of concede the position once again. So I was very wary of how quick he was going through the pack, so I thought let's just go back with him and try to overtake everyone together in a nice little overtaking challenge, last 2 question mark challenge. So through this sweeping section here, you see how close everyone is. It's very much a track that it is difficult to overtake around. It's very narrow. You do have to, in many ways, get the driver ahead to make some sort of mistake, or, like this, wait for the queue to get a little bit too slow, and then you can prize your way through one way or the other. So our first overtake is going to be on this car, who's grinding off the barrier, and we're going to move up into 19th. So that's one position. It's taken a fair amount of time, but we are going to get another one here after the Corvette gets overtaken here. So the gap opens there with not max power, so I'm going to just jump into that gap and move up into 18th. So I think one of the things here, if max power goes for a move, I really just have to try and follow him through as best as possible. But unfortunately for him, he tries to make a move, doesn't quite work out, so the gap opens on the left, and we're going to overtake him instead and move up into 17th. So you can try a move here around the outside, doesn't quite work out, and then we're going to keep 17th. But that outside move is something that you do have to watch out for, as Max Power will demonstrate throughout the course of this video. Now, wasn't quite able to look for that move there. Just trying to look for a move, but it's so difficult around it. So we wait for that mistake there, but then it kind of swerves across the circuit. I couldn't really pick a way past. So I'm definitely quicker. I've got the pace here, but it just shows how difficult it is. You just have to be very patient. I'm going to cover the inside there and just make sure we don't lose a position. And again, faster on the exit, just couldn't capitalise on it though. Against Hunter 1989. Although a couple of corners later he does that. grinds across Barrier. Barrier is a very popular guy in this area of the world, it seems. And now we're going to gain on this next group. So we have a couple of Supras and a Beetle. You can see how much we gain here on the brakes going into the carousel. So this is often what happens on these races. You'll just have one person going a little bit slower, and then there'll be a bit of a group caught up behind them trying to get past. So looking for a move here, not really a place to go for it. That's a fast left-hander flat out, not really a place to go for an overtake unless you're an absolute maniac and you wish for death. Now, it wasn't going to be too much longer for me to get this move done, I don't think. We're going to look down the inside here, and it doesn't quite work out. And instead, Max Power goes flying around the outside. And to be fair, that was a very good move. Like, I mean, I can't sit here and say that that wasn't absolutely mesmerising. I just got completely done over. So it's one of those things where you kind of get caught dawdling, half looking for a move, and then you forget that there's a guy behind you who can actually go around your outside. He does another outside move there, opens up the door. We're going to try and follow him through and move up into 16. But then this corner here, clearly my weakness, and I just don't enter it at a good angle and just get completely out of shape, moving down into 19th. So it's taken one lap to gain one position in on balance, and that's not a very good return really, is it? So the Corvette is going to serve a penalty here. We're going to tuck into the slipstream of the Supra, probably the best car to follow on this straight. Very quick car down the back straight, and he's going to get the slipstream of the Beetle. We're going to follow him through on the right hand side. We should be able to easily get past this Beetle as we do. He comes across The Supra swerves left. We're going to tuck back into the slipstream. Are we able to get this move done? Probably not. Just shows you how strong that Supra is. Not quite able to get the move done. And we're going to have to slot into single file as we head up towards the big braking zone at the end of the lap to round out lap number 1. So that was an okay first lap, apart from that big mistake, losing us 3 positions. So we're in 17th now as we begin lap number 2. Onto the GP loop. Can we get some overtakes done here? We're going to go for an absolutely gigantic, ambitious dive bomb. And to be fair, I think that was a little bit beyond what you should lunge from. But thankfully, this time, it came off good. But I got a little bit lucky there, to be honest, because I could have easily have turned that into a bowling alley and murdered about 10 people. So now in 15th. You see Max Power there in 12th. He's got 2 cars between us. I need to try to get that gap down, as many cars as possible. But there's a bit of a queue. I mean, there's about, 7 or 8 of us within sight, just up in front. McLaren F1 goes very wide there, drifting off into Barry R, who once again increases his popularity. And we're going to look for this move here. He did indicate. I wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do. So we're going to stick behind him for the time being. And then over the crest, down into this big braking zone. Look around the outside. We're going to try our own outside overtake. You see how close the battle is up in front. I think this is the battle for about 9th. So it's a very close fight. And this is what happens, as I said earlier. It kind of descends into little groups. And despite losing a lot of time to Max Power earlier, he's now kind of stuck in that group. And he can't really make any progress at this point in time. And then this incident happens here. I think he tries to go around the outside of the South African driver. Then they both end up visiting Barry. Barry. Just what a guy. Everyone seems to love him here. And his friendship group has grown yet larger by the day. This is a very particularly good day for Barry. So we find ourselves now in 12th with Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Clarkson's playing Gran Turismo. How about that? And we just managed to creep ourselves alongside the Porsche and nip up, no, sorry, it was a Supra, nip up the inside, move up into 11th, immediately behind Jeremy. So let's see what Jeremy's all about then. As we get in the slipstream, there's not much he can do against this. Sweeping past him quite easily. His genius wasn't that frightening there, to be honest. And we move easily up into the top 10 of the race with a couple of potential more positions here to be gained. 9th and 8th, apart from that mistake there, which really hampered our progress. So that was a very ill-timed mistake. But we still have the long straight just coming up here. So let's see what happens. As, the Italian meets Barry now. Everyone wants to visit him. We're going to have to start rationing out the visits to Barry. The Dutch driver here serving a penalty now into the slipstream of the Supra. This could work out quite nicely, actually. So we're going to firmly get into the slipstream. Look at this progress we're making against the Supra. We're going to move to the right, and he moves across very late. Very, very late. And I was actually quite annoyed about that, to be honest. Quite a dodgy little move. But there you go. And then coming up into the final sequence, it doesn't really work out. We touched wheels on the grass, and then boom, we're dead. And we finish 11th. So that race, yeah, one little moment there pivoted our result. Could have been an 8th, ended up 11th. The look of disappointment upon the driver tar. We changed our livery to this 70th anniversary one, which surely has got to be quicker. There's no doubt about that. So once again, conceding all the positions, going down into 20th of 20. What can we do this time? That last race ended on quite a negative note. Although, 11th from last is not too bad. Not too bad. Max Power here just getting caught out with this the Polish driver there making a mistake. And then we're going to go up into 19th. So a lot of the same names we're seeing here. So you can begin to familiarise yourself with who's who and how they drive and what car they're driving. But I'm going to get slaughtered once again from an outside overtake. We've got a bit of an incident there with a Spaniard and an Italian. And then look at this little move here. Once again, max power. Pulling off these outrageous outside moves. And I didn't really learn my lesson from the first race, which is just cover the track. Just sit in the middle so that he can't really do that to you. So he just, basically just sold us for chips with that outrageous outside move. This guy's going to slow down, so we're going to try and follow him through. Once again, if he goes through, opens up the gap, just dive into that gap and gain the position. We do that. That's okay. Up into 18th. Are we going to make more progress? Polish driver all over the place there. In towards the carousel now. It looks like Max Power's just going to nip underneath. I wasn't able to follow him through, and I made a bit of an ambitious move here, trying to go on the top side of the carousel. I've seen moves on some real life videos being made there, where people go around the outside, but to be fair, that's probably only really possible in multi-class racing, where you're up against a slower class, not against another car in the same class. So that was a tad ambitious. It wasn't going to work. But then this moment went in my favour. Look at this. One car, two cars, down the hill, another car is going to get edgewise, the Spaniard. They're going to go side by side here, and then we're going to gain another position. So it just shows how quickly things can turn on its head. And it looks like this is the train up behind Jeremy Clarkson. So perhaps he's actually driving something. Might even, that Corvette, it's as if it's towing an invisible caravan, such is the lack of pace at this point in time. Coming up towards the back straight though, let's see how this goes for us. Just going to try to maximise our pace onto it, with Max just behind. So what I'm going to do here is bump draft the Supra, which I think is the best option, rather than going past. I don't think I'll actually be able to get fully past. I'll probably run out of steam. So what we're going to do is going to bump draft him, try to catch up with the duo in front, Jeremy Clarkson and the Dutch driver there in the Mercedes. And then, quite kindly, the Supra here is going to pull off to the side, slow down and let us go through. And we are now into the slipstream range of the cars in front. So that worked out really nicely. So thank you to that driver there for letting us go through. But that was kind of a fortunate moment. And here I just inadvertently run Max Power very narrow. I didn't know he was on my outside. He was so good at this outside overtake that I wasn't even aware that he was there on the outside, which turned to the inside for that final corner. But coming down into towards turn one, just trying to decide what to do. We've got a yellow flag here. We're going to try and get a differential here to try to get a straighter line on the way out. That kind of works in my favour here because the German here recovering from a mistake that he made. So we are just up the inside here, looking for 14th. And we are just going to close him out on the exit of this corner and move up a position. Now, there's a bit of lag there. So Jeremy Clarkson's internet at Diddley Squat Farm, not quite on point. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. It looked a bit weird. Kind of had a bit of lag. But either way, we're going to move up into 13th, up behind the Dutch driver in the Mercedes. So my main aim really at this point in time is let's try and get an overtake done before the end of the GP section. And that means I need to get this next left-right chicane nicely done. That'll give me slipstream up the subsequent straight and therefore into the big braking zone, into the NGK chicane. Let's see if we can do that. And we are off onto a good position here, onto the straight. Is he going to cover the inside? He is slightly, but not fully. This gives us the line here. Make sure we don't miss our braking point. And we're into the corner quite nicely. So we move up into 12th position, onto the beginning of the Nordschleife. So that's not too bad of a return. We've got one lap here of the Nordschleife to try to gain as many positions as possible. We've got a bit of a gap to try to catch up. 3 seconds to the car in front, in fact. By this point here, so maybe a third of the way through, we gain a bit more time. And then by here, you see 0.6 seconds behind. We've got a yellow flag. What's happening around here? Someone's parked it. The Frenchman just parked it in the middle of the circuit. You can't park there, mate. Although, actually, you can park it because I'm just going to gain the position for free. Thank you. So up into 11th. couple of Germans now on home soil, and we're going to try to overtake them as soon as possible, if at all possible. Up behind a Jaguar of all cars, quite an interesting choice. Now, as I said earlier, I briefly mentioned the word differential. This is where one's going to happen, because I see that this guy's going to go very wide, and therefore we're going to try and take a different line. You see, he goes wide there, go narrow and cut back. I could see that happening. As soon as he went wide, I was like, overtaking opportunity, boom, and we get it done. Up into 10th. Top 10, 7th place is in sight. So let's see if we can gain a few more positions. The two in front just fighting with each other, trying to settle their position here. I reckon 8th place is very much possible. And then they're actually going to swap again, the Italian getting demoted this time. Through YouTube corner of all corners. Now this is, what, 2 minutes of racing left to go. Let's see if we can gain 1 or 2 more positions. Up the inside we go there. He really braked very early, didn't commit very much speed. And unfortunately that overtake wasn't as smooth as I would have liked. And we're just going to go out of slipstream range of the car in front. So this next section is crucial to the result of the race. We're going to finish 8th, or we're going to finish possibly 11th. If I don't gain a couple of tenths here on the car in front, because we are coming up to the back straight. We said how tactical this race is. You have to be in slipstream range on that straight, otherwise you are just a sitting duck. We've got that corner right for the first time in the whole video. That's the 8th time we've gone through there, and we finally managed to get it right. Can we gain 1 more tenth onto the back straight? Let's see if we can do it. We took those last couple of corners pretty well, but look, the gap is 8 tenths to the car in front, 6 tenths to the car behind. And that pretty much seals my fate, because now I'm not in the slipstream. The car behind is in the slipstream. Nothing I can do about it, really, unless I want to just swerve across at the last minute and just block him. But we're not about that life. We're going to let him go through and try for a return move. The Italian here coming at us very quickly. Can we get this return move done? He brakes on time. The only chance we have is slipstreaming past him on the main straight. It's not a very long run to the line though. We have seen lots of overtakes being done here though. It's going to be 10th. It was a really good race, really good battle with Max Power there. And to be fair, he really had that overtaking sus with the outside moves. He had a couple of unlucky moments. The main thing, just really enjoyed it. Really good fun racing around the Nordschleife. But that is it from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Get yourself subscribed if you're not already. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.